Be honest. How many people do you know won't make a single decision until they check their horoscope first? We all have that friend, right? Especially in these uncertain times. So here's what we're going to do today. We are not just going to be reading horoscopes. We're actually going to be writing our own. Specifically, we will be building a mini astrology app, and we get to design it in our way. Our tone, our vibe, funny, dramatic, whatever fits the energy we want. The goal is we want to design an app that focuses on creating a ritual for users. Because here's the thing about ritual apps. They don't actually need a million features. They just need one thing done really well, delivered in a consistent way. That's it. That's the entire game. So in the next 20 minutes, we are going to be building a real app that you could ship today. Even if you've never built anything before, you will walk away with something people can actually use on a daily basis. Let's get started. All right, here is our game plan. So we're going to break this up into 5 steps. So step 1, we're going to focus on preparing the design of the application. So what I mean by that is we just want to be thoughtful about 3 specific things. Specifically, our persona. We want to be very clear on who this app is for and also who this app is not for. We want to also have a good sense of our features. At this point, we're going to keep things super simple because we're just starting with our minimum viable product. And then, of course, we're going to really think about the ritual that we want to accomplish in the overall user experience. I mentioned that earlier. We're really going to focus on this concept of ritual. And the idea here is we'll flesh out all of these aspects of our product, throw this into an AI tool, and then generate a prompt that comes out of that. You can use whatever AI tool that you like. I will be using ChatGPT today. But again, this step is optional because I'm going to actually paste the final prompt of this step in the link below. So that's our step 1. Step 2, we will be generating something in Lovable. So we will be actually generating the front end. So we're going to take that prompt that we get from step 1 and plugging that into Lovable and having it generate the front end. Step 3, we will go ahead and set up our backend. Today, we are going to be using Supabase for our backend. I find Supabase to be very easy to use and very reliable. So we'll go ahead and set up a Supabase project, and then we'll connect our Lovable project to Supabase. Then step 4, we're going to go ahead and add authentication. We're also going to create the ability for us to update the horoscope so that way they are dynamic. When I say dynamic, what we want is essentially a new horoscope every single day. We want it to be different, right? So we're going to focus on all of that in step 4. And then finally, step 5 is I'm going to teach you how to keep these horoscopes dynamic. This can be specific to this, but it could really be general to anyone who has a product that is focused on content. How do we keep things up to date in a way that doesn't feel too automated, but still is a system that is bearable? So that's what we're going to do today. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Sunny. I'm a serial founder now on my 4th startup. I used to be a senior engineer at Shopify and Bloomberg, and currently an adjunct professor at Columbia Business School, where I teach technology. Listen, I have been building software for over 15 years, well before AI. So I've made all the mistakes so you don't have to. My goal for today, and generally with this channel, is to help you get your ideas out into the world. Let's get started with our first step. All right, so what we're doing in this step is we are essentially we're going to be describing our product vision and essentially throwing this into a ChatGPT prompt. And what we want ChatGPT to do is we want ChatGPT to generate another prompt. This prompt will actually then be plugged into Lovable. So we are prompting to get another prompt. This is actually called meta prompting, which is very effective and widely used when you really want to get high quality outputs from AI. So I mentioned that we're going to go ahead and put in our product vision. I've pre-prepared for time purposes. I pre-prepared some aspects of this. These are kind of like the components of it. I'm going to share this page in the link below, by the way. So here we have some notes on persona, some notes on the aesthetics, and the core features, right? So let's actually go through what we're dealing with here. So in this case, I wanted to do something different. I feel like most astrology apps are targeted towards women. So I want to put together an astrology app that's targeted towards men, specifically men between the ages of 25 to 35 who are professionals. And here's the thing, the focus is on men with a steady morning routine, because in my hypothesis, this is the perfect demographic to potentially adopt this ritual that I'm trying to create here. So let's continue reading. So astrology isn't something they take too seriously. So this is a very casual astrology person, but they do enjoy the ritual of it. This audience is tech comfortable. They appreciate super simple designs. They're drawn to light, fun, optimistic content. So this is a good enough explanation of kind of what we're thinking in terms of our persona. Now, let's jump down to some of these aesthetic notes. So we want something clean, minimal, and calming. If you notice, when I do a lot of these videos, I always start with clean, minimal UIs. Not because I feel like that's always going to be the best aesthetic that people use, but I find that it's a good starting aesthetic, especially for a minimum viable product, especially for a minimum viable product that is generated with AI. So I tend to stick with that, but maybe in a future video we can explore something that's a little bit more busy and more designed. But for now, we're going to go with this clean, minimal aesthetic. Calming, it should feel like a ritual space. We also have some guidelines on some super simple color palettes. I like to keep things very muted a lot of times, very clean fonts here, white space. So this is giving us some guidance around aesthetics that we're going to assemble into the prompt. And then finally, the core features. This is the most important thing. So we have one daily horoscope. We're keeping this dead simple. We can do some streaks, some gentle tracking, minimum interaction. Those we could include, but not essential. So I'm going through all of this to kind of make this one point. When you are designing an app with the assistance of AI, you really want to own the planning process, especially in the beginning. It should be your vision. It should be something that you have a point of view on and a perspective on. So what I'm doing, and admittedly, these are partially AI generated, partially my edits on top of that. You're collaborating with the AI here. So we are generating some components, but we're also kind of getting into the details of what the product vision should be. So it's not just fully generated. It really comes from your own point of view and your own perspective. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. And then ultimately, we're going to feed this into this prompt. This is the meta prompt. So let's read what it says. I want to build an astrology app for men. I'm going to build this in Lovable, so generate a prompt for me. The prompt should include all the components of the product I've pre-planned listed below. So we are going to copy this. I'm going to throw this into ChatGPT. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy all of these components here. Great. Now let's see what we get on the other side. So while that's running, I want to emphasize again one of the central aspects of the user experience that we're really trying to cultivate in our app today, and that is the focus on ritual. Think about it. How many apps have you downloaded in the past year? 10, 20? And how many are you still actually using? Probably not any of them, maybe some of them, but the vast majority you're not using anymore. Here's the thing. Apps don't win because they have the most features. They don't win because they're the most accurate or the most polished. Apps win because they become part of your ritual. Checking your horoscope every morning, checking the news when you wake up, doom scrolling before bed, these are all rituals. Some positive, some negative, but all rituals nonetheless, tiny, repeated behaviors. It's what makes people come back to an app. So I just want to really focus on that, and that's what we're really going to try to cultivate in the product experience. Let's go ahead and see the prompt that ChatGPT has generated. All right, so here is our prompt. We have the basic concept. So it's repeating some of the information, also building on it, and also assembling it into an easy to understand prompt, easy to understand for another AI tool, hopefully. So we have like the basic concept here, talks about our target demographic, some of the features, some of the flows, aesthetics. This is good. I think this is solid for us. Let's go ahead and copy this. And then what I'm going to do, let me go ahead and refresh. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and paste this in Lovable here. All right, so there's quite a bit going on in this prompt, quite a bit of guidance. So Lovable is essentially generating our entire front end. So this will take a couple of minutes. Let's see what she comes up with on the other side. All right, so Lovable has generated our front end. Now let's click around and see. So to me, this is very minimal. The only thing that I kind of hate are these emojis. I don't know about you, but I feel like in this AI world, anytime I see excessive emojis like this, it just screams AI generated and kind of lazy design. So we are going to update this, but for now, let's actually see the rest of it. Cool. I mean, everything else seems pretty solid. These probably just don't work. All right, but you can't really go back, which I don't love. So there's two things I'm going to make changes on. Let's actually go ahead and prompt. Let's use more sophisticated icons for the zodiac sign, not emojis. Also, when a user accesses their horoscope, they should have the option to navigate back. I think that's pretty good. Again, one thing I do love about this is it's just super, super dead simple. So let's see how she takes these modifications. Okay, looks like it's done. Let's test out this navigation element. Cool, that works. Also, to me, these icons look significantly better. And this is awesome. This looks all fantastic to me. Super minimal, really clean. There's one more modification I want to make to our front end, and that's adding a landing page. So I see this a lot with a lot of builders. When you build a product, you don't actually have that first landing page before the actual app experience. So let's go ahead and generate this. So I'm going to have Lovable. I'm going to prompt Lovable this. Let's generate an attractive landing page that really sells this product. One other thing I want to instruct Lovable is that this landing page should be located at the /route, and the current app experience should be at the /app route. So while it's running, let me explain what that means. So if you click on this, these are the different pages of your app. So if you go to your, let's say, if we assign this to your domain, astrology.com, then this would just be like the root route, which is just astrology.com. But if we do /app, then that would be astrology.com/app. So what I'm saying is I want the actual app experience to be moved to the /app route, and then the landing page will be what you see when you land on the page. This is a very common design pattern where you have landing page separate from like your core app experience. And the way that you would link it is a button on your landing page that would either go to a login page or it would go directly to your app experience. In our case today, it will go directly to our app experience because we don't have authentication set up yet. We will be doing that in a later step. Cool. So let's see how she does with those instructions. Okay, great. So we have a landing page. This looks fantastic to me. One thing I just realized is that this does not actually have a name. So let's actually think of a name in ChatGPT. Can you give me a few name ideas for this app? I like to do, when I'm doing like hard reasoning or creativity stuff like this, I typically like to go to ChatGPT. So let's see. I like the word aster. Let's try that. Cool. So while that's running, I want to make another point. So it seems like every time I talk to a lot of builders out there, it seems like everyone is trying to build this next huge product or platform. But in my view and from my vantage point, the opportunity really is in going niche. It's in taking, a super simple mechanic like horoscopes or flashcards or affirmations and tailoring it to a super niche audience that nobody has thought about yet. So potentially, it could be maybe horoscopes for medical students or habit tracking for moms or meditation timers for runners. Basically, what it is, it's taking a mechanic that already works. So you're not reinventing anything. What you're doing is you're just asking, well, who needs this exact thing but styled specifically for them? That to me is the untapped niche. That to me is like an untapped opportunity. So I wanted to make that point. All right, so let's go ahead and see. This looks like it's done. Let's go ahead and see what Lovable has done. Cool, so we have the name here. It's still prominent in this view here. And then let's go ahead and take a look at our landing page. Cool, so we have Aster here. Listen, this is solid to me. This is pretty good after a couple of minutes of work. This is enough to go ahead and actually build this into the real thing. Again, this is just our front end, so our next step is setting up Supabase. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and connect this to an actual backend. Specifically, we are actually going to use Supabase for this. So if you haven't heard of Supabase, no worries. Let me just give you the super simple explanation. It's a very simple but powerful out-of-the-box backend solution. If you were to build your own backend, it can be fairly complex. And if you want to just get something up and running, Supabase is a great solution. What it essentially does is it's essentially Google Docs, but for databases. But in addition, they also provide very easy authentication. So login flows, sign up flows, things like that, right off the shelf. So if you don't have a Supabase account, head over to supabase.com, set up an account. And then once you're done, to set up Supabase is I'm going to actually click this cloud button here. Lovable is trying to push their own cloud solution. For now, we're going to hold off on it, and we're actually going to stick with Supabase. And to do so, I'm going to go ahead and click this connect it here. And we're going to continue. This is already connected to my account, so you'll probably have to connect to your Supabase account. I'm going to hit continue, and I'm going to go ahead and create my project here. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and name my project. In this case, we're going to call it Aster. We should probably put some kind of basic password here, and then I'm going to go ahead and create that new project. All right, so we've set up our new project. The next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and set up my authentication. So I'm actually just going to copy a pre-prepared prompt. It's going to be in that link below. So now that we have this connected, we actually have to do one more step. We have to hit this connect button. So now it's connected to Supabase. We'll give Lovable a second to do the connection. All right, so it's connected, and now I'm going to paste this prompt, which is let's set up user accounts in Supabase, then set up login and sign up flows. Also, let's set up other required tables for our product and connect it to the front end. So the other connected tables would probably be things pertaining to the horoscope. So I'm going to go ahead and send this. Let's see what she does on the other side. All right, so it looks like Supabase wants to make a modification to our Supabase database. So before it makes any changes, it always asks us for our approval. So if I just kind of scroll down here, looks like we are creating profiles. So if this looks scary to you, no worries. Main thing you should probably read is the stuff in gray. Those are comments for our benefit. So it looks like it's creating like a profile table. This is where user data is going to live. And then it's going to create horoscope tables and maybe track reading history here. So we're creating those database tables here. This all looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and click allow. Okay, it looks like we are done. Let's click around and make sure everything kind of works, right? So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go back to my preview. I'm just going to refresh it for good measure. And let's see what we have. All right, so start your ritual. Great. So now that button goes directly to our auth flow. This is our sign up. This is our sign in. Before we actually sign up, I want to click around in the Supabase project here. So this is our Supabase project. This is where our data is going to live. So we currently don't have any data, but we do have two tables, which is profiles. That's going to be where our user data lives. And we have horoscope readings. That's going to be where our horoscope data probably lives, right? I also want to go to this authentication section. This is going to be very important. So you'll see that we also have another table called users. This is like the actual users of your product. It will link to the profiles table in case we want to hold additional pieces of information on those users. So one thing I want to do is I actually want to turn this one configuration off. So I just went into authentication, specifically sign in and providers. This is all of like the different configurations, options for how we want to set up authentication in our project. I want to draw your attention to this specific setting. It's confirm email. So what this does is anytime a new user signs up for the first time, it will ask them for an email confirmation, meaning it will send the user an email and then the user needs to click on the confirmation from their email in order to log in. Generally, this is very good practice. It prevents spam, but I'm actually going to go ahead and turn this off. And I'm going to do that by clicking this button and save changes. And I'll tell you why. Because we are in testing mode. So I actually want to test the sign-up flow multiple times without having to actually have different emails. So I just want to be able to run through this process a couple of iterations during this testing phase. And then once I'm done and ready to deploy it to production and announce my product from the rooftops, I will probably turn that back on. So now that I've explained that, let's go back to Lovable. I'm going to just, again, refresh for good measure. I'm going to go ahead and sign up, right? sunny@gmail.com. This is not my real email. And then put in a password. Great. Cool. So I didn't like that it went straight to a specific sign, but that's fine. We're going to ignore that bug for now. I'm a Scorpio. Let's take a look. And cool. This all looks good to me. The one thing I don't like is that there's no sign out button. So let me have Lovable add a sign out button. Let's add a sign out button once the user is logged in. And while I'm at it, I'm going to also describe that bug. Also, when I log in, it should go directly to the page where we list all of the zodiac signs. So it looks like Lovable has to make a another database change. So let's take a look at what it's doing. So it looks like this has to do with some kind of authentication logic. So I'm going to go ahead and allow it. Okay, so it looks like it's done. what I'm going to do is I'm going to refresh the page here. And okay, it looks like they added this sign out button here. So I'm actually going to pick my correct sign and then sign out. And I want to see what's happening under the hood, specifically in this profiles table. So what I'm going to do is go to my table editor. And so basically what Lovable is doing, which by the way is not what I asked it to do, but it's actually better. So when someone signs in, they're presented only with that menu if this value is null, meaning that there hasn't been a selected zodiac sign. Because there is a zodiac sign here, it'll go directly to Scorpio, and it was selected once I changed the sign. So let's test this functionality. So I'm going to go ahead and sign back in with the same credentials, and what should happen is it should go directly to Scorpio, which is great. Now, if I change my sign to Gemini, if I refresh the page, I should see this go to Gemini. So this is all working well, so fantastic. And now what I want to do is this. The actual horoscopes are not currently in our database. That's a problem, because that means every single day that I check this zodiac sign, it's going to say the exact same thing. So if I actually go into my code, and I know a lot of builders out there are kind of afraid to dig into the code. I don't want you to be scared of it. Just know it's just text on a screen. I'm going to walk you through it, and I'm going to show you. Let's see if we can find where these live. So if I look into probably in some kind of data lib. Yes, horoscope data. So this is where all the horoscopes live. They're directly in the code. It's fine if we wanted an app that had the same content every single day, but we actually need to keep this a little bit more up to date. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this dynamic. And really what I mean by that is this data should actually live in my Supabase database. And then we will keep it up to date on any kind of periodic basis that works for us. So what I'm going to have Lovable do now is move this data to a database and have our front end pull from that database. All right. Let's have the actual horoscope data live on our Supabase database. Once we've moved the data there, ensure that our front end UI is pulling from that database. The database also, one other note that I want to add here is that our table should have a field for the day, because it's not just going to be one horoscope for Scorpio, it's going to be a horoscope for every single day that we want to produce a horoscope. So what I'm going to say is this table should have a day column, or date time column is the appropriate name, for the horoscope day. Let's see if she can understand that. Okay, so it looks like we're coming back with a database modification. All right, let's go ahead and read it. Looks like we're creating a horoscopes table. Perfect. Horoscope date, that's exactly what we want. All right, it looks like it's done. Let's confirm, shall we? Yeah, let's confirm, shall we? So if I'm going to click on this, I'm going to go back to my Scorpio. Okay, it looks like we have an error. This is typical of when we do this migration. I'm just going to tell Lovable. We are seeing this error when we pull a horoscope. And then I'd like to just copy this, but it's not letting me. So I'm just going to type it out. Okay, so it looks like it's fixed. I'm going to go ahead and test this. I'm going to close this. Okay, great. So it looks like it is pulling from the database, but just to be sure, I'm going to go back to my backend, and I'm actually going to go to my Scorpio horoscope, and I'm going to update this in our database. Let's just do something fun. You are going to have the best day ever recording YouTube videos. Great. So I just saved that. I updated this. Let's go back again. And look at that. So we now know for sure that this is being pulled from our database. So great. So we just completed that step. All right. So obviously this is great, but the issue is if we came back tomorrow, then we'd have a problem, right? Because we wouldn't have a horoscope for our users for October 5th. So this is where it's super important to be able to update your content. So a more sophisticated approach would be connecting to an API and kind of just having everything super automated. But sometimes being super automated, especially in the early stages of a product, sometimes may not actually be the best thing. We want to own the content here. We want to be able to manipulate whatever horoscopes that we upload in our tone, our vibe, however you want to write it, generate it, however we want to do it. So what I'm going to show you now is how to keep things up to date. We're going to keep this super simple. I'm not actually going to write all these horoscopes. I'm going to start with generating the content. In this case, we're going to generate it from Claude. I find that Claude is particularly good at writing. So what I'm going to have Claude do is I'm going to have Claude produce a CSV for all the horoscopes for the next week. And I'm going to then upload that CSV here. But before we can do that, we need essentially our database schema, the structure of our database here. So if I go to my SQL editor, so if I click copy table schema, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to Claude. So now that I'm in Claude, I'm going to instruct it here. So please generate horoscopes for daily horoscopes for all the zodiac signs for the month of October. We need a CSV file, which is just simply a spreadsheet that follows this structure. And then we can paste what we just copied from Supabase rather, but I'm going to just alter this because I just want the things I need. So we don't need actually this created at, we just need the zodiac sign, horoscope date, message text, and that's pretty much it. Cool. Let's see what Claude does for us. Okay, it looks like it's done. So let's go ahead and download this, but we actually don't want to download this as text. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to a CSV file. And then I'm going to go ahead and open this in Numbers, but you can also open this up in Excel. And great, this looks like it should work. So let's go back to Supabase. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to import this data from my CSV I just downloaded. Okay, great. Looks like everything is here. Let's refresh just to make sure everything works. Great. And just to be clear, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete one of the entries that was already there. So let's actually sort this. It's going to be the Scorpio 10-4. Let's actually filter this. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. Okay, so this doesn't work. Now, why do we think this does not work? So I'll tell you why. Because if I filter for Scorpio uppercase, it works. So I have two options. I can change this, which is actually what I'm going to do here. Or I could change Lovable. But right now I'm just going to change this here. Let's go back. Great. So now it works. So this product will work if we could just re-upload. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to just delete everything and re-upload with the correct case here. So just give me 1 second. Let me just update this on my end. Okay, great. So let me just refresh this to make sure this works. All right, we still have this here. So looks like we have this in here. Fantastic. Great. So we have our 372 rows. That makes sense. And now what I'm just going to do for a final check is make sure this works. Fantastic. All right, so this works. We have a fully functioning app. If you were able to stick around until the end of the video, thank you. And if you were able to build it, even amazing kudos to you. Yeah, so again, like we focused on just this ritual, a super clean UI, and we also covered how to actually keep all of this up to date. If you stuck around to the end of this video, thank you so much, and I will see you at the next video.